Who was it that delivered Earth such a wide blow? Well, it turns out it was the Xindi, with a laser beam, bozo! To save Earth, only Enterprise has the chance. Now chased by Duras, Archer and crew head into the Expanse. I'm Josh.
I'm Justin.
And this is From There to Here.
That wasn't bad. That was good.
Okay.
Of course, no one's going to get the reference, but...
Well,
cool.
Made us laugh. I guess that's all that matters. All right, this is Season 2, Episode 26. It's called The Expanse. And according to the IMDb, this is what it's about. An alien probe launches a devastating attack on Earth. Archer, still being hunted by the Klingons, brings the Enterprise back home to investigate. And this is rated... What do you think?
7.9.
I'm going to say 7.6. Ooh, we're both wrong this time. We went down. It's up 8.2.
All right.
Wow. They were generous on this one, these internet critics.
They're very unpredictable, these internet critics.
They certainly seem to be. Okay, what do you have for trivia? Anything interesting? You said no earlier.
Not really. The episode was written by Rick Berman and Brandon Braga, directed by Alan Croker, who also directed the previous season finale, Shockwave. Let's see. In 2016, Radio Times ranked the Xindi attack on Earth the 45th greatest scene of all Star Trek and film productions. Film and television productions.
Of all Star Trek.
They note the event...
Wait. Who was it that rated this?
Radio Times.
Oh, that old rag.
They note the event re-energized the show and launched a season-long story arc. They also note, quote, then came a cliffhanger episode that began with a devastating sight, an alien probe cutting a swath of destruction across the Earth.
Ooh.
And in 2019, Den of Geeks said this was an important episode for understanding T'Pol.
Oh, did they? That's insightful.
And this episode was nominated for the 2003 Emmy Award for Outstanding Special Visual Effects for a series. Now
special for its time.
Yes.
We were commenting it out.
Yeah, for its time.
How great the CG looked.
Yeah.
And can you detect the sarcasm in my voice on that one?
Long. Yeah.
Yeah, not too good. But no. I guess for 2003, that's probably when this was. It was...
Sure, it's fine.
So they don't do people well yet, you know.
No.
So they're trying though. Well, right off the bat, was this good?
You first.
It's not as good as I didn't have an impression. So to say it's not as good as I remember it being, it would be inaccurate. It wasn't as great a first parter as I imagined it to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It felt very lackluster to me.
Okay. I thought it was maybe just me.
It was okay. It's an okay episode.
It's fine.
But I thought this setup for the Xindi, I thought, man, I remember it having more of a punch. Now, like I said, I didn't remember this episode in particular, but I remember the precursor to the season 3 being a little bit more effective in a more general sense. But now, after watching this, I was like, well, okay, that's just okay. It's okay. Yeah. It doesn't, there's so much mystery about what's about to happen. They're going into this expanse where they really don't give you any hints about, other than the Event Horizon video that we get from the Liberate tutume ex iteris. I really wish they would have shown a clip of that instead. Okay, what I mean is they showed a clip of the Vulcans going crazy.
Yeah.
Was it Saval? Saval was lucky enough to bring over a little his VCR recording of Event Horizon. Of Vulcans going crazy. So apparently that's supposed to be something they may encounter, and then there was his story of Vulcans being anatomically inverted,
right?
Which never happens.
Nope,
that never happens. A setup for something that never happens. I really wish we would have seen that in season 3. People get turned inside out.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But that's my impression. What about you?
I basically have to agree with you. It was fine. was all right, but I think they made some tactical errors here. The whole intent was to set up what would be kind of a new attitude for season 3. And they were really, really trying to present an enemy threat that was nothing we've ever seen before, that was so horrible and bad and all of that. And oh boy, poor Enterprise. The
ship or the show?
The show.
Okay.
They just don't get it. They really don't. I read a long time ago, I think it was in the Deep Space. No, it wouldn't have been that. I forget where I read it. But I basically read that in creating the Xindi, because the Xindi are 3 separate species, all from the same planet, which are all sentient and equals, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. I recall reading that the creators, their intent in doing that was to replicate the triple threat that was the Dominion, where they had the Founders, the Vorta, and the Jem'Hadar.
Where did you say you read this?
I forget where I read it, but it was their attempt to replicate that triple threat, which was, DS9 just rocked it, because any one of those villains by themselves were bad news. Put them together and they're unstoppable. So they were, from what I understand, they were trying to replicate that, and in my opinion, did not succeed in doing that. My biggest beef with this episode is that it's supposed to be the setup for this huge and terrible threat, but frankly, outside of what happens at the very beginning of the episode in the teaser, nothing actually happens. And
you're right, it doesn't.
No. And the Duras thing just
goes nowhere.
Boy, that was wow. I think they were like, okay, let's just put that to bed because that's a thing we did. And
I feel like that was shoehorned in there after it had been drafted out and they realized there was no threat.
Maybe.
There was nothing tense happening.
Right.
And it's just, their whole episode was Earth is attacked, and then they decide to go to the Expanse. Well, that's boring. Well, we need somebody chasing them. Who? Right. Oh, Duras. We haven't killed him yet.
We can't have the Xindi chase them because they still have to be a mystery.
Right.
So I think this is what I think they should have done. I'm just going to go ahead and step into the writer's room. We all know what the episode is. So no one knows who the Xindi are. Fine. Cool. The teaser opens with a sphere showing up, blowing up part of Florida and Venezuela, and then disintegrates, blows up, whatever. Maybe they said this in dialogue. I don't remember. Okay. Oh, I forgot their stupid future guy. Future guy tells them it was the Xindi and they're over here. Okay. So my opinion is get rid of the Duras stuff, get rid of future guy, none of that. Have the ship do what it does in the very beginning, fine. Although cut into something like, I don't know, cut into California or Washington, San Francisco even, cut through that. I don't know anyone who lives
something
in Florida.
That's visually more interesting.
Something that really means America, but anyway, have that happen in the beginning and have when it comes back from credits, have them say, okay, we have no idea who that was. Here's the pilot. He's a pot roast. We don't know what he is, but we could tell from the blah, blah, blahs from the little ball that it came from way over here and it had to have been on this path for 3 months. It must have come from this thing that we're calling the Expanse because it's so big. The Vulcans have heard of it, but we don't know what it is, because it's months and months away. So they do a quick scan. They figure out there's nothing coming yet, but they know, Earth knows, forget how they know, make up something in the story, but they know that more is coming, right? That was a test and a successful one. So they know the big one's coming. So let's spend the next 3/4 of the episode on Earth and have it be like Starship Troopers, where the Earth is rallying. As much as we thought Earth was unified by the finding of the Vulcans, this is really pulling us together. No, scratch that. Maybe it's dividing us a little bit. Maybe show a little civil unrest on Earth. You got half of the people going, kill them. We've been attacked. This is awful. And have the other half going, well, maybe it was a mistake. We shouldn't just assume. Let's try and talk to them, But you've got Starfleet and whatever military force is on Earth, like show it somehow. Show them prepping for a planet-wide invasion, right? This is actually really bad. And think about the episode of DS9, Homefront and Paradise Lost. Is that what it's called? Paradise Lost? Where Starfleet personnel are beaming in that they're doing martial law. They could even say that here. Say we're invoking martial law because we have no idea when the next thing's coming, and we have to prepare for war. Like, we're a changed people now. And have the whole show the Enterprise being refitted. Yeah, they show the scene of the photon torpedoes are new, but man, make it, add a gun turret to the top of the Enterprise. Like, this is real. Like, we've gone from a ship of exploration to now we're making you a battleship now. And have Archer go sit in the barber chair, get a buzz cut because he ain't got no time to do his hair. He's going to war. He's going to war, son.
And a tattoo.
Yeah, everyone should get a, death from above tattoo. Like, this has changed the Earth. We have been attacked on a scale never thought before. 3/4 of the episode be that. And then the last quarter is them spending those 3 months at high warp, getting to the Expanse. And, the last quarter of the episode could be actually very somber. Everyone getting quieter and quieter as those 3 months dwindle down, knowing that when they go in there, they could be marching right on to their own death. And they're doing it by themselves. Like, have the crew talking about that, saying, we're one ship. What are we going to do? And have it when they go in there, just like on Earth, there could be this kind of charged energy on the Enterprise where half of the people are like, Tucker, gung ho, go get them, go blow them to bits. And the other half going, we are so screwed. Like, I'm here, but we're toast. And have it be like that, no one will ever top Best of Both Worlds Part 1. I mean, Mr. Worf Fire. I mean, that was so good. And this did not come close to that.
Stop them from trying.
No, and
God bless them. They do try.
Yes. But it's like Rocky. They can freeze frame at the end of every movie, but it's never going to be the same.
Well, I have some.
Yeah, go.
I have some ideas about your writer's room idea.
All right.
But first, I think this might dovetail nicely into what Marie wrote about this episode. It's not exactly a discussion question, more of an observation she wrote. I hope all is well in your neck of the woods. I wanted to share some thoughts about the upcoming Xindi arc. Please keep in mind that I haven't watched The Expanse or any episodes beyond it yet. I'm writing now to keep up with you guys. Your fault. By golly, I think that's my first complaint.
Wait, should we address that right now? That we decided we're not going to do that going forward?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I did put that down in one of the episode descriptions, but... and I told Marie and I told Sebastian, our faithful listeners and our honorary members of the podcast, that we're not going to record in advance anymore.
We're going to go 1 week at a time like we have
which
been doing.
Is going to explain why this episode was late this week, because there was a lot going on this week. We just did not have time to get together until today. So back to Marie's letter. So I spoiled myself. I blame you. And learned that the upcoming Xindi arc is heavily influenced by the September 11th attacks and the events that followed. How convenient. I was in the military during that time, stationed on an aircraft carrier as
Marie?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I wasn't. You're not talking about me. This is I'll start that again. I was in the military during that time, stationed on an aircraft carrier as a bomb loader. Wow. So I would have worked with Malcolm. I'm excited to see what's next.
She was like Rose's sister in
Last Jedi. I'm excited to see what's next. Will this darker direction lay the foundation for the soldieristic views we saw from the Crawl in Star Trek Beyond?
Crawl.
From Kral.
Oh, from Crawl. Oh, because Crawl was a Mako.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yes.
Where he felt that conflict and struggle were necessary for progress and survival. I hope there will be funny moments too. Maybe Malcolm will draw pictures of the Xindi on torpedoes. That's what I did. We drew pictures of Bin Laden. So I bring that in because, that September 11th attack, although it's, young people today weren't even alive.
Yeah.
It was a very big moment in American history, and it changed the direction of world events and whatnot. And, but using that as a catalyst for this plot, well, I think your idea holds much more weight because galvanizing the whole country, that's kind of like what happened. Well, at least the way I remember it, the country felt galvanized after that. But what needed to happen in this episode was something bigger. The attack needed to be bigger, not just a laser beam across Florida and Venezuela. Like, who cares?
They're all on the beach anyway. What
did it go through some of the ocean too? It's like,
yeah, you're wasting juice.
Well, what should have happened is whatever ship they sent. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, did the Xindi actually intend this to be their final weapon against Earth, or were they just testing? What was this? Did they assume this weapon was going to destroy Earth, or was it just a test they sent to see what kind of damage they could do? Because it's incredibly bad battle strategy to inform your adversary of what your plan is, which is what they just did. So if you're going to send this thing, you better make sure you do it. When you strike the king, make sure you strike him hard and put him down. But they didn't. So whatever they sent, it should have been bigger, and it should have devastated Earth much more. It should have destroyed a lot.
I agree.
Yeah, should have really done some
it should have taken out the whole state of Texas.
Something like it was plowing up Earth. It was really getting down into the core. It was really making things bad.
Yeah.
But something went wrong. It malfunctioned. It didn't finish. So really devastate Earth, really do something bad. Then everyone can be galvanized, gather, and I think you're right. Having it take place mostly on Earth for the first 3/4 of the episode, and then having them head into the Expanse.
Yeah.
That feeling of people being angry, and not just on an individual level, but on a planetary level, and wanting to strike back. Seeing that happen.
What if even we cut to people
amazing.
in their homes watching the TV like 9/11, seeing it and going, oh my gosh, is this real? Mm-hmm. That would have been really powerful.
Yeah. That would have been really good. You could have had moments that were very reflective of people on 9/11 watching it happen from nearby, or watching it on a view screen. They were like, where were you when it happened? That kind of thing. Yeah, that could have been very effective. But then if we spend some time with the crew on their way there, where anger has been fueling them up to this point, but then when they actually get there, then it sets in like, we have no idea what we're going to find out there. And they really start to feel some fear that maybe they've broken off more than they can chew, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that's not what the episode we were given. So.
No.
But we do have some discussion questions from Sebastian. I'd like to go into those now. So he has, it looks like 3 discussion questions. I think these are questions and observations. So on the Expanse, number 1, the show made a major course correction here. I imagine the showrunners stepping into the writer's room and saying, okay, guys, forget everything we've done so far. We're designing a new first episode. The Enterprise is given a new mission, and the main characters, Archer, Trip, T'Pol, are given new character arcs. What do you think? Is the Expanse the better first episode than Broken Bow? That's interesting. I never thought about it like this. Like this is a reset.
I never thought about it quite like that either, but I think you could definitely argue that that's exactly what it is. they realized ratings were going down and they needed to do something.
Something drastic.
Yeah.
I guess this would be considered drastic for its era, not by today's standards, but back 20 years ago, they're going to attempt a season-long arc of something. And I remember hearing from the writer somewhere that they wanted to do this before, but they just couldn't get the okay to do it. I'm surprised the DS9 writers got away with the long arcs.
Well, according to Ira Stephen Bear, the only reason they did is because Voyager was on and the higher ups were paying more attention to Voyager and they really didn't give a crap about DS9. Okay. And that's when it became, I remember, in his words, a little bit serialized.
I remember when DS9 was still on the air, and I had stopped watching it at this point. But it had been, I think it got moved to like Saturday nights around here in these parts anyway.
I remember that.
Yeah. Or it was like Saturday or Friday. It was a bad night.
Yeah.
It was a bad night to be on in prime time. And I was like, yep. That show's on its last leg and they don't give a crap about it anymore. It's too bad. I mean, I wasn't watching it. I didn't know how good the show was at that point, but only years later would I go back and see what I was missing. But what was I talking? Oh yeah. So Sebastian's question, is this a better first episode? Like as a reset?
Like, would it be better if instead of Broken Bow, this is what we got?
Yeah. They can't wipe the slate clean, but they can.
No, I don't think so. I think this maybe would have been a good ending for season 1. And like we said, have a really cool whole first year where they haven't left Earth yet and they're still battling the Vulcans to get away and all that. And this is finally this straw that broke the camel's back. They're going out and they're going out to save us, do something different, because the Enterprise on a mission of exploration. Yeah, well, we've seen that before, but a year of buildup, something we can actually relate to, and then a giant event that we can relate to, then go into space. Yeah. Like this should have been the start of season 2, the end of season 1, start of season 2, maybe.
Well, I agree with that sentiment, but that's not really his question. So,
well, do I think this should have been how the series started? No, because
I don't think he's saying it as like the start. Is it like an effective reset? I think that's the way I'm reading that.
If we're looking at it just in that term,
I would say no.
Yeah, I no.
We didn't even think it was a great.
We thought it was kind of a weak episode.
Yeah, we didn't think it was a good first parter. No,
the Xindi, once we get to know them a little bit, they humanize them too fast. You've got the most human looking of them.
Maybe this would have more impact if we didn't know where it was going.
Yeah, maybe, but the Xindi just weren't. The reptilians were pretty vicious, but the dolphin ones, well, they're
oh, that's right, that's the other one, the ones that
the aquatics,
the aquatics,
they're kind of useless.
And the insectoids,
yeah, the insectoids are the really bad ones, and then the humanish looking ones, they're pussycats, like Archer made buddies with one of them by the end. It's like, oh man, you Voyagered the Borg in the same season they're supposed to be the villain. Like you can't. They wussed out.
Yeah.
They should have made them vicious, relentless, and awful. But you also have to know, if you like, anyone who's watching Enterprise knows Star Trek. And let's face it, if there was a villain out there that bad, we'd have heard about them already. I mean, the Klingons, the Romulans, like, come on. No one's going to name drop the Xindi. Like, they can't be that big of a deal. So,
well, this is why they're getting the Time Future Man involved.
Right.
So, which is,
another thing that they never fulfilled.
No, it's just these threads they pull that they just go, it pulls out to nothing. It goes nowhere.
It never did.
It just unravels and you're like, it's nothing. Oh, okay. Just like the Duras subplot in this episode, it just kept pulling and it was like, oh.
That's it.
Okay. Well, he was annoying anyway. Yeah. Just unceremoniously killed. You're like, fine.
It was weak.
I know, it was very weak. So to answer that question, No, I thought that Broken Bow was a decent first episode.
Yeah.
I thought the show started off promisingly. Although I think they should have stayed on Earth for a year.
Yes.
But I think the show started off promisingly with Broken Bow. I wouldn't think this would work. I don't think this works as some kind of a reset. Although I think overall in my memory, I remember season 3 being rather enjoyable. We'll see as we get into it.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, this will be very interesting.
I remember having some clunkers, but
yeah, I know it does. But I know they have some good ones too, but seeing what, doing this rewatch as we're doing, and how often I've talked about how wooden Archer is. I'm very curious to see if the episodes live up to my memory. My memory is that it's kind of more the same, him just acting angry, but it's just kind of acting, I mean, I hate to go back and refer to this, but Quantum Leap, I mean, I
think it's required that we reference Quantum Leap in every episode.
When Sam Beckett was mad, happy, angry, whatever, it felt like a genuine human being expressing these emotions, and there was layers and all of that. With Archer, I don't know why he just feels so chained. I don't know why.
I wonder if that is something that Scott Bakula did, a choice he made, an acting choice for this character,
maybe
to have restraint.
I'd be very
what do you
curious.
think of I'm thinking of Scott Bakula from other things outside of like Quantum Leap, like in
Lord of Illusions,
Necessary Roughness. I don't remember him having that restraint feeling. No,
it's this show.
So I think two options: either the showrunners or the director, whatever, are telling him to act in this way.
Yeah.
It's like the show Bible said that he is a reserved captain or something like that.
I don't know.
And that's just in his mind why he's doing this, perhaps.
Maybe. It's as good a reason as any, I guess.
Question 2 from Sebastian. What do you think were the reasons behind such a major course correction for the series? And was it even necessary?
Ratings.
Yeah, the show was in the toilet. And They knew it. It's that simple. I mean, this was... I know I can't remember. I said 2003 earlier. It must have been 2002, 2003. Not that long after September 11th. Mm-hmm. The show had 2 seasons. Nemesis, I think, had come out at this point and tanked. Star Trek was kind of in the toilet.
It was.
DS9 was over. Voyager was over. They didn't know what to do anymore.
And the fans were just leaving this.
Well, it was burnout. They'd had so much Star Trek had happened over the course of about 15 years.
Well, not only that, but 2 years of this, and there were so many lackluster or dud episodes. It's like, come on.
Well, it wasn't helped by the fact that people had given up on Star Trek, even with like DS9 and Voyager. People were losing interest,
which is a shame.
Insurrection came out. That movie sucked.
Well, yeah,
it was just salt. It was just like soggy white bread. That's all that was. but people had abandoned DS9 and Voyager, and long before they even ended, but they kept the shows going.
Yeah,
and it's a shame because they're fairly good.
They were still
DS9 was much
content.
better.
Yes.
But people had just kind of like lost interest. There was too much of a good thing.
Not only that, but there wasn't enough variety in it.
Yeah,
they
weren't taking enough chances in the writing.
What?
Well, with DS9 they were, but Voyager wasn't.
No. What Enterprise needed from the get-go was a Harv Bennett, basically. And I don't say this as a shot against Berman and Braga, because I do think they did very well for a very long time. How much they had to produce. That's hard. I think they had very much earned their retirement from Star Trek, and the show should have had a new executive producer, a Harv Bennett type that didn't know Star Trek, but would learn about it and respect it, and continue to have the directors like Frakes and Roxanne Dawson, all those people that know Trek, just like with Star Trek 2 and all that, where Harv Bennett and help me, the director, Nick Meyer, 2 people that didn't know Star Trek but were respectful, and then they formed this good little triad with Leonard Nimoy, who did know Star Trek and all of that. Like, if the show had just been handed over to different people from the get-go, I think it might have had a chance. You know, I don't think it would have looked like this. I don't think it would have felt like this. I think it would have been a different show. And I think the CBS Paramount people probably would have been like, yeah, give us some, make sure it makes money, but make it different. Because I think I said this, I think I quoted this to you on one of the different Enterprise episodes, but I'll never forget watching the behind the scenes extras for season 4 of Farscape. And it was one of the producers for the show. He gathered everyone together and he read the letter, and it was saying they were being canceled. And you see them all just devastated. And I think he read a letter. Who was it? I don't know if it was another executive producer on Farscape or if these were his words. I can't remember. But that Farscape was being canceled right about the time that Enterprise was starting. And he read this letter and they referred to Enterprise by name. And they said, in comparison to Farscape, Enterprise is a, quote, lumbering dinosaur. And that's kind of what it feels like. Yes, it can have standout episodes, but a show like Farscape was already made by the time Enterprise came out. And Farscape was out of this world. You know, that was what, I don't know, some of the things on that show are just mind-boggling that they did for a television show. And it felt alien and different and scary, truly scary, all of those things. And then here comes sweet little safe Enterprise, you know, and it's like, well, yeah, you're not really keeping up. You know, this needed a real shakeup from day one, and not the Xindi arc, just different Star Trek. So that's what I can't help but think about when I watch this show, when we're doing our rewatch, which is, man, they're just behind. They're so behind what even a show a couple years before that was doing.
I'm having problems with the way you're phrasing this when you're calling it a shakeup. Because in what way? Because for example, when you look at what Star Trek is being produced today,
yeah,
that's a shakeup, wouldn't you say? And that's bad.
Yes, it is.
So how do you mean? Shake up how? Because you shake it up too much, it's not Star Trek anymore.
No, it's a fine line. But what Harv Bennett did, and you'll remember this from behind the scenes of Trek 2 when he took over, he watched all the original series and he said it comes down to those 3 guys. That's what it's about. Those 3 guys, their friendship and how that works. The passion, the logic, and the guy in the middle, and that's Kirk. And that's where the drama is. Now, yes, they came up with interesting stories. He brought back Khan and all that stuff, but he got it. He got what Star Trek was without being beholden to what it was. And Nick Meyer didn't give 2 craps about the man with the pointy ears. Okay. You know, he was just interested in telling a compelling story. And he did that with Harv Bennett's assistance, and Leonard Nimoy, all, you know, they all pitched in, but they all had to be filtered through these 2 guys. Harv Bennett's trying to make a name for himself as a film producer as opposed to a TV producer, which he was. And Nick Meyer, he was given a big movie, like he had to deliver. And so he brought all of that Shakespearean drama that's in his head, and he put that into a Star Trek movie. And he did it. He turned Khan into Moby Dick. And it was great. You know, so I totally get what you're saying. J.J. Abrams took over and we got Trek 09. That's not Star Trek anymore. Like, because although I like Abrams in general, he clearly does not respect or understand Star Trek. He doesn't. We've seen him in interviews. You and I have talked about that. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand who those characters are and why they work the way they do, which is why JJ Trek falls flat in a lot of ways. Sure, they're fun and actiony and all that, but it's not Star Trek. Those aren't those characters.
Well, that set the template for everything
it did.
that we have now.
Of course, but those made a shit ton of money because J.J. Abrams knows how to make a fun, flashy movie. You just can't think about them in any way or they fall apart. But that's what Kurtzman, who took over TV Trek, decided to do. He followed the J.J. Abrams model with no understanding of what Trek is. I mean, it's shocking how little they actually know Star Trek. And that's what I think Enterprise needed. It needed a shakeup at the executive producer level, but someone that actually would show respect to the material. That's all. And, God, get a different cinematographer, for God's sake.
Get a better set design or something. Add some color to the episode.
Herman Zimmerman did this show. He did TNG. He did DS9. I mean, he wasn't the problem. It was the way it was lit, the way it was shot. Yes, they made a choice to go with a gray color palette.
But it's all very safe.
Very safe.
Yeah.
Everything is safe. Too safe. Show me some wires. I want to see things sticking out. Make it real. I think a different executive producer would have done that. I really do.
Question number 3. What do you think about the 3 new character arcs? Archer wanting to save Earth, Trip wanting to take revenge for his sister, T'Pol needing to explore her new identity after having turned her back against the Vulcan community. For me, the arcs for Archer and T'Pol feel okay, but I don't buy the whole story with Trip's sister. It just feels like we need to give this character something to chew on. I think he didn't put on, he just put chew.
Why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Let's see. Archer wanting to save Earth. Well, yeah, he does become rather obsessed.
He does. He gets very driven.
He does. Well, it works for me. It works for me. I think the one I care for the least is probably Trip and his sister.
I get real tired hearing about Lizzie. Yeah. Love my sister.
I find the T'Pol one interesting because I find T'Pol to be a character that just is interesting to me. I think I find it interesting when the show allows her to explore her emotional side. So we know it's in there. So whenever that facade breaks a little bit, she becomes a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I would agree. I understand what Connor Trenier was doing, what they were trying to do with Trip, but it just kind of got monotonous after a while. Have it not just be his sister, have it be his whole damn family. If you're going to do it, like, strike hard. I agree with you with T'Pol that is potentially very interesting. And, I don't remember a lot of the specifics of season 3. I'll probably remember as we go episode to episode. As for Archer, in concept, it's good. I mean, like the one episode that comes up, I don't know where in season 3, but the one where he has to strand another ship. He steals something from them, so their ship will go.
Right.
And
that's somewhere in the middle, I think.
Something like that. And that's cool. And I dig that they made that choice. I think it was like kind of a day late and a dollar short. Like, he should be making choices like that from day one, entering the Expanse and all that. Like, this should be a different guy at this point, because he said it himself. And it's something I think they really should have played with more, and maybe it'll come up as we watch the season, but I have a feeling it won't. But someone in this episode makes reference to the fact that he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he does. It all comes down to him. He is the sole person responsible for saving Earth. That's a huge thing. And which makes him capable of doing things he would never do under ordinary circumstances. But they played it way, way, way too safe. You know, when he strands that ship, they're going to be fine. That they'll survive on their ship. Maybe it'll take them a while to paddle home and all that. No, man, this show should have gone Battlestar Galactica on us, where, you know, leaving these guys. Remember the mini series for Battlestar Galactica?
You mean the two-parter that opened it?
Yeah, the remake.
Yeah.
How President Rosalind had to make a choice.
Did she?
Where she met with, at the beginning, this girl on a botanical ship.
Oh, right.
You know, a little forest ship. And for some reason, I forget the mechanics of why it had to happen. They had to leave the ship behind. They could have tried to stay and fight and save, but they were like, we're in a fight for the species here. So we have to jump. And they had to leave this ship behind because its engines were broken or something. And the last shot is of that girl, this little girl that she met. And she knows this girl's about to die. And it shows that I believe the shot is on the little girl as kind of White comes in behind her like she's being nuked, you know, and it's depressing, and it's supposed to be. You know, we should have had, if Archer's going to leave a ship behind, it should be with those kinds of consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is real stakes, but they never fully committed.
Yeah, they just weren't.
They
didn't have the balls to do it.
They didn't.
No.
And I honestly, I want to say that's Berman and Braga. Probably Berman more.
Well,
than
I think there's
anyone.
also a moment in this season though coming up where he does kind of go dark, where I think he has some kind of alien on board who he's trying to get information from about the Xindi or something like that, and he puts him in an airlock.
That's kind of familiar.
And he's threatening to eject him or slowly drain the air or something like that.
Yeah.
And he starts to do it, and the guy starts to suffocate, and he can't believe he's doing it. And I believe that he was going to kill him.
Right.
So I think that they do, in some cases, go that far.
Too few and far between.
But yes, yeah, too few and far between. That's a good way to put it. But they did take a chance here and there. I think the reason is, yes, they're just afraid that they were going to make Archer look too much like a villain. He's supposed to be the hero.
Right.
And, you know, white hat heroes can't
but
do
we
bad
understand
things.
What's going on. So, you know, as long as he's doing it to a bad guy, I don't think the audience would have faulted him.
Well, you know, it's a curious time. This was 20 years ago. You know, they didn't know exactly what would be popular, what exactly Star Trek could be. They were still kind of drawing from what they knew, where the captain was always this valiant hero.
Right.
And going dark like that, maybe back then our feelings were a little bit different. Maybe like, man, that's pretty ballsy, man. They're having him almost kill a guy. Like, we didn't see Picard do anything like that.
Cisco did.
That's true. Cisco did. He did.
But see, no one thinks about Deep Space Nine. It was doing all this stuff, but no one cared. So
That's true. That's true. But they weren't using DS9 as a template. So let's just don't bring up DS9 here. And we just said nobody was paying attention anyway, so it doesn't matter. They still had to try to satisfy both ends here. They wanted to be creative and new, but they still had to stick with what worked. And they didn't know what TV was going to turn into. They didn't know that it was going to become incredibly more cinematic, more in-depth involved than movies are today, more or less.
Yeah.
So I think from our modern day perspective, I think we're being a little hard on it. Don't you think?
Yes. But that's why I bring up the Farscape thing, because there was television being produced at that time that was as risky and risque.
I think it's unfair.
As Enterprise was trying.
I think it's unfair to bring up Farscape.
Why?
Because Farscape is not Star Trek.
No, it's not. But
no, it's just.
I'm more talking about like the themes.
Farscape had no legacy to owe to nothing.
Yes, of course, that's true.
So no, it's completely different. The only reason it's because their names are similar and it takes place in space. I mean, come on.
I think there's a certain degree of fairness in comparing them. Yes, it's not apples to apples. It is a little apples to oranges, like you say, because you make a good point. Enterprise had a legacy that it had to follow, and it was generally considered to be a family safe show. So they had to find a way to do these things and still keep what they perceive to be their core audience. I get it. It must have been very difficult to ride that line, but by the end of season 2, they just had to realize this is not working. Like we have to really, really change things. And they tried, but they couldn't fully commit.
Now, I wonder if it came down from a studio exec. You know, if you guys can't pull a rabbit out of your hat for this next season, we're going to cancel you.
I don't know.
Because, you know, why else would they allow them to take a chance like that? Like, you know, they probably said, do something risky. Yeah. Take a chance, you know, because we're gonna can the show anyway.
Right.
And only by a wing and a prayer did they get that 4th season, right?
Yeah, and it was a truncated season 4 at that.
Was it? How truncated?
Shortened, I want to say about like 4 or 5 episodes.
Oh, I see.
Because they I think they were just out of money, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they even got.
Frankly, I am
one.
too. I really am too. Yeah.
I'm really quite surprised because watching this now, and I don't just mean this episode, but Enterprise in general, you know, I'm not as impressed with it as I was back then. Back when I was actually watching it for the first time, which was about 20 years ago. I remember really enjoying the series, and I still do, but I was much more impressed by it then. Now I think I've got this. I've got 20 years of memories and 20 years of seeing other things and better things. And now it seems rather quaint in comparison to what we get today.
That's true. And I think you are instinctually feeling the same thing I feel when we're watching these. Because like you said, we're coming at it now 20 years later with what we've seen, what we know of Trek and yada, 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 all that stuff. But I also agree with you. At the time, I wasn't necessarily feeling that. I remember that. I remember looking forward to the next episodes and watching it and all of that. And lost my train of thought. I don't know where
I'll get it back.
I'll get it back. Yeah. I don't know where I was going. I did have somewhere I was going with that.
Well, okay. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe it won't. Well, I think we pretty much answered Sebastian's question, which was about the character arcs that we're experiencing.
Right.
And
I know what I was thinking. It was this. Nary a day goes by where where neither you or I does not watch an episode of Star Trek.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And I said that could, for me, that's either TNG, TOS,
or listen to it. We'll just play the audio
DS9 or Voyager
from something.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet I don't feel this way when I watch those shows ever, but I do when I watch Enterprise. And I think the problem is this.
Well, it's nostalgia. We have no emotional connection to this.
No. See, that's what I'm trying to say. When Enterprise was on, I was still like, we're like, this is Star Trek in widescreen. Like, look at this.
No, we weren't.
That's
not what we were thinking back then.
At the time, Trek didn't look like this. It was different. We were kind of into it.
We weren't really that into Enterprise when it first aired. I don't remember sitting down watching it together or discussing it. Nothing.
I don't know, man. I remember watching. I
remember feeling pretty lukewarm about it. Wow. That was my impression.
I mean, that's how I felt about Voyager, lukewarm. But I still watched it. But why is it we can look back now? I mean, Enterprise was produced only a couple of years after the Voyager. Mm-hmm. So why is there such a disconnect? And I think maybe I don't know if I'm going to explain this the right way, but with all of those previous shows, I feel like they knew their boundaries. They went right up to those boundaries. In a lot of occasions, Voyager could get pretty dark and like pretty violent. It could also have completely goofy, insane episodes, you could say the same thing for Deep Space Nine. Yet I can go back and watch those and I just totally get caught up in the story. I never think, oh, this is so dated or anything like that. Whereas that's almost universally what we come away with in watching Enterprise. I think it's because, and again, I don't know if I'm going to explain this right. Those shows knew what they were and they worked perfectly in that bubble. Whereas Enterprise was trying to be something different, but didn't know how to do it. So, Voyager, Deep Space Nine could take it to 10 in the bounds of the Star Trek universe, and they'd be some great episodes. Whereas here, they do this gigantic thing, like they cut a hole through Florida. You think that's like gigantic, but yet it somehow feels hollow because the structure and the story around it don't support it. Like they don't know how to do something of that scope and scale. So it ends up feeling kind of blah. It'd be like if I tried to sit down and write a sequel to Lord of the Rings. I've seen Lord of the Rings. I know what it looks like, what it sounds like, but I don't know the first thing about making something like that. So I feel like in some way, that's why we can't revisit Enterprise the same way. It's like it was almost on one level, it was trying to be comforting in being the Enterprise we know, but then on another level, it was like embarrassed to be that. So it tried to be something different, but they had no concept how to do that. And so it just falls flat.
I feel like this is kind of like what I said, and just said in a different manner.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So, well, since it was, I thought similar. I agree.
Oh,
but
I thought you were giving me like a dirty look the whole time.
Was I? No.
Felt like you were just like waiting to look up and go, no, you're right.
Don't I always look like that though?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we answered Sebastian's question to bring it all around. I find T'Pol's arc in this season to be the most interesting. I know, Trip's arc of his sister leads to the T'Pol relationship.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like their relationship. I think that's finally they get some, interpersonal drama going on there, which
sorely needed.
Well, yeah, with two characters that you never really thought like would be good together, but they actually turned out to be good together. And then Archer's, I like how obsessed he gets and some of the dark turns he takes. But anyway, okay. Overall, I think we can cap this episode up.
Yeah, probably.
Overall, I find it to be a satisfactory episode. It's not very engaging. It's just okay. I think it has far less rewatchable points than I remembered having. They don't make me that intrigued. If I try to imagine if I didn't know where this was going, it's slightly intriguing, but not very.
Right.
It's just okay. It's just okay. So I'd give it a B- probably, something like that.
Yeah, that's about what I give it.
Like you said, it just nothing really seems to happen in the episode.
And what does feels shoehorned.
Yeah. I don't find the Suluban or Future Man that interesting in here.
Yeah, no.
They went nowhere with that, and now they bring it back just for this. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's not interesting to me.
I agree.
No, like I never found Future Man interesting. I thought that was really weak sauce that they tried to do something like that. The fact that they got Future Man involved in this and the Suluban, I'm like, that's a different story altogether.
And the Klingons.
I know. It's like, come on,
like
guys.
Literally there was so little threat outside of the opening teaser that they had to throw in all these elements just to give it some juice.
Yeah, I've seen them do better than this. And so this is kind of, as a season finale, it's kind of, it's a little sad.
Yeah.
So did you say B- as well?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay. Did you have any awards you'd like to give out to anybody?
No.
Anything you'd like to highlight about the show, the episode in general?
No. Because honestly,
okay,
I think everyone was way too understated. You know, if ever there was a time for Admiral Forrest to tell Saval to stick it up his pointy ass, it would be right then when he's trying to say, you stupid humans, what do you know about time travel? You know what? We're going to go ahead and do this. Why don't you go fuck off? You know, I would love to see Forrest stand up to Saval. And this is absolutely the time to do it, you know? And even hell, man, like I said, work it into the plot where Saval, who's been on Earth for quite some time now, you know, he's familiar with humans. He could see what's happening. He could say, as a word of caution to Archer, he could even pull Archer aside before they warp off. You know, he could go there like thinking he's going to take T'Pol, and T'Pol goes, nah, I'm going to go ahead and stay. And after they have a little bickering about it and he realizes, well, you're staying, he could turn to Archer before he walks off the airlock and leaves. He could say,
we step back into the writer's room for this.
Well, yeah, I mean, really though, this is where I think they totally missed what they could have. They could have had some really heavy drama within the Star Trek frame. And he could have said, you know, I've been living on Earth a long time now. You weren't alive when I got here. Humans have changed. They are united because they realized they were not alone in the universe. Now they're uniting even tighter. And I've read your history books. Do you know when this happened before? Does this sound familiar? And he would go, what are you talking about? He would say, have you ever heard of Nazi Germany? And he would say, you're comparing Starfleet to Nazis. And he would say, they were driven by a single purpose. You are driven by a single purpose. The Nazis would do anything to do their, what they thought was best.
Sounds like an odd comparison. I thought you were about, when you said World War II, or I thought you were about to say, well, the Allies.
No. I'm saying this because he would be giving Archer a warning, which is, I see where this could go.
To fascism? Is that what you're saying?
No. Just in single-minded hatred going forward. In other words, he's cautioning him. I understand that you're going out there.
They do touch on that.
Drive it home, man. Drive it home.
Well, I mean, like later.
Well,
later.
It should have been in this episode. That's where we said where they spend 3 months of Earth arming itself for war, and Saval, who's an outsider, saying, "This is not the Earth I came to, 100 years ago." And he would say, "You guys have done something similar. A small faction did this on Earth a long time ago, and it was really bad because they were driven by hate." And he would say, "Be careful, you don't do that. Make good choices when you're out there, even though the consequences are dire." Just warn him. I think that would have been potentially interesting because
Maybe.
Archer does get put in those situations. How bad is he willing to be?
No, I agree with you. It would have been dramatic if they had that in there.
Very.
I think your Nazi Germany comparison is quite bad.
But it had to be harsh. It had to be harsh. Otherwise, it's not going to have any effect. And it's like what Spock said in Patterns of Force when they go to that planet where that one guy made all the people Nazis, and they were
Yes.
Remember that one?
Yes.
And he's talking about Nazi Germany in such a way that Kirk goes, "It sounds like you like him. What's that about?" And he goes, No. I didn't like what he did, but in X amount of time, this guy took a poor country and completely flipped it around. But he was doing it from the wrong place. But he unified a whole country. Like, it was pretty impressive what he did. But he would say it's also horrible because it was a one-man dictator show, and that's not good. So it would be something like that, which is to say, in a couple wrong choices, you could be viewed this way. Be careful. I think that would have been very dramatically interesting. Potentially.
So I think I asked you if there was any awards you'd like to give out. I guess that's a no.
Sorry.
No. Yeah. If there's anything you wanted to highlight.
Honestly, no, because they missed almost every opportunity they had.
Okay.
I'm very let down. In fact, I almost want to give it a C+.
Well, you can change your grade if you want
I'm going to. It's
C+?
a C+ at best.
That's what Ralphie got on his paper. Well, There's nothing, no awards. Well, there is one, but it's rather silly. I'd like to give a award to an extra. I'd like to give the Shatner Award for Best Dramatic Performance to the extra that was killed when Duras fired on the Enterprise. It was a shot in engineering.
Oh, and he flipped off the beams.
He fell. He something exploded behind him, and he fell over the railing. Now, if you are a fan of Mystery Science Theater, that's what they call a railing kill. Now, that happened a lot, particularly in an episode, a famous one called Space Mutiny, which Justin's familiar with, where there was a lot of railing kills, and it was wonderful. I wish they would have done that.
The Journeys of Spaceship Warehouse.
That's right, Spaceship Warehouse. If you haven't seen it, Space Mutiny's on YouTube. Go watch it. You'll see it. Lots of railing kills, but their whole engineering area is just a giant factory or warehouse or something. It makes no sense. You can see the sun outside. It's weird.
No, it's terrible.
Anyway,
how hard would it have been to just spray some foam on?
No, I know. Put some construction paper up.
Yeah, come on. You can get that from the dollar.
So I give a Shatner Award to Ensign whoever who died falling over the railing. Ensign blown apart. That was wonderful. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was wonderful. I'd like to move on to listener responses. By listener, I mean the same people we always hear from. Sebastian. Sebastian wrote in about First Flight. We had a discussion about something Justin did. Justin said something.
Oh, here we go. Finally, it's catching up.
Which Justin said something during that episode's recording, and Sebastian had a response to that.
I'm very curious.
He writes, "It's really interesting to hear your perspectives and to respectfully disagree. Okay. Culture may have a big influence indeed." Well, before I go on, should we remind what we were talking about? Do you remember exactly what queued this up in Sebastian's mind?
Well, I know we were talking about First Flight and how First Flight was basically like the right stuff. And
that's right.
And I know I started waxing about or questioning, wondering if even though every country has their own first this and, all that, from an American perspective, our culture seems very, very wrapped up in its
heroism.
It's
bravado.
It's bravado. Yes, that's a good way. And, like the America fuck yeah attitude and like, we're going to space.
I think you said America fuck yeah in that one too.
We're going to do this. We're going to be the best, you know? And like, I'm not saying other countries don't feel that way, but I feel like with America, it's like in our DNA in a different way.
In a nutshell, I think
like a cowboy way.
In a nutshell, I think that's what we were getting at.
And I asked Sebastian because I knew he was from Germany.
Did he, it
feels that way over there.
Right.
Yeah.
So he continues, "It may sound a bit oversimplified, but I think there's some truth in it. Germany fueled 2 world wars for very wrong reasons, and it unfortunately, it fortunately lost twice." I want to make sure I get that sentence right. "The Second World War is connected to a historically unique genocide, and after World War II, Eastern Germany had to endure a second dictatorship. So for me, patriotism is connected to giving the wrong people too much power that will be abused. I feel a very deep skepticism towards any kind of single strong leader, some kind of hero who, despite all the criticism, says, no matter, I'll fight my way through it now. My very own vision will lead society to a new future. I am much too aware of how this can lead into a nightmare. When I watch figures like Archer, Kirk, or New Trek Pike with my wife, we sometimes jokingly call them Captain America. That's also why I so much adore how Picard does things differently. He is not Captain America. He's a Frenchman with a British accent, an intellectual and a diplomat. He asks his whole team for options and often relies on diplomacy, science, and higher values. These problem-solving techniques appeal to me much, much more than fist-fighting your way to the top. But yeah, I can imagine that with a different background, you can watch an episode like First Flight with a very different eye. Well, I liked getting that perspective, and I do still disagree with what he said. But with what Sebastian said.
Oh,
I agree with you, of course. I'm an American too. But from his point of view, yes, I can see how.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of to springboard off what you were saying about what Saval could have said.
Right.
It can go in the wrong direction. And his country's history, they saw where it did.
Yeah.
Go in a very bad direction. But my favorite bit was how they call Picard, not Picard,
America.
they call him Captain America. That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
I wonder if he and his wife aren't the only ones to do that.
Yeah, that's
it's an American attitude.
Yes.
I think a caricature they see of Americans.
And we don't even realize we're doing it.
No, we're not aware of it at all.
We think it's cool, and
it's normalized here.
And they see Captain America.
Yeah. Well, it's we see Germans probably in a way that he wouldn't understand. He's like,
now I have to know how does Sebastian and family actually see the actual Captain America? Like in the Avengers, is he just like a showboat? Like is that going too far from another country's point of view? Like, you ridiculous idiots. He's wearing his flag as his cup. Come on. Like, is that how the rest of the world sees us? Do they look at a character like Captain America and think he's a clown? If they can take someone as serious as Captain Picard and call him Captain America, what would they say of a character that's truly over the top in their patriotic presentation or their cowboy-like attitude? I mean, look at, it's hardly a fitting comparison given what Sebastian just said, but look at The Hunt for Red October. When Ramius says, if we get a thoughtful guy, this will work. But if we get some buckaroo, an American cowboy, we're doomed, because they're going to be like, Yahoo!
No. He wanted the buckaroo.
No, he wanted a Jack Ryan. He was afraid of getting a cowboy.
He wanted the buckaroo. I think you need to watch that again.
Okay.
He wanted the buckaroo.
But he said that. He said, if we get some buckaroo, in other words, someone that will shoot first without asking questions, we're doomed.
No. No, I don't think so.
I'm going to take you on this one.
Fine.
Okay.
I disagree totally. No, he wanted, no. He wanted that cowboy type that would go against orders, that would go against the grain. That's what he wanted.
No.
That's what he got with Ryan and the captain of the Dallas.
No, he wanted someone like Ryan who was thoughtful, who would see past their culture differences and all of that. A cowboy in his strictest
Ryan
sense.
was the buckaroo.
No, not really. Everything he did within the bounds of what he was allowed to do. I just Ramius had that very specific conversation where
no, he risked his life to go out and find the Dallas. Remember, he on a helicopter. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it. He almost didn't.
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Let's we're off track.
What are we talking about? The Hunt for Red October has nothing to do with this. They're not even German. They're Russian. Forget it. Just forget it. But yeah, no, I have an impression of Germans and a lot of that is fueled by movies about World War II.
Sure.
So, but anyway,
I mean, like, not all Frenchmen walk around going, Frère Jacques.
They don't.
They're not all wine drinking lovers,
And don't they really love who's that actor?
you know
what I'm talking
Jerry
about?
Lewis?
Jerry Lewis or something?
I don't know how that's a thing. I do not find Jerry Lewis at all.
I don't know if that's actually
interesting.
true, but
I don't know.
Or if it's a stereotype or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it Jerry Lewis?
I think it is. It's where another country just love him.
Okay. Well, I think that's all we have for this one.
Yeah, I think we got it.
So up next will be a season 2 recap.
Yeah, of some sort.
Yeah. I guess we're not going to go episode by episode this time. We're just going to talk about it generally.
Yeah. I think so.
Sebastian and Marie have written in about season 2.
That's what I want.
They have selected episodes specifically.
Okay,
They have
that's
some
fine.
comments about that. And I think they have overall impressions. So that will help with our discussion.
I agree.
All right. Well, see you in the recap.
Bye.